What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Weekly GCap, the only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. And as always, if there's only a couple stories that you're interested in particular, you can either use the timestamps down in the description, or you can just kind of scroll through there in the time bar and the chapters should be labeled there. But anyway, let's get right into this. First things first, we'll go ahead and go over all the major game releases in the last week according to Metacritic. So, on September 13th, we had Demon School, Edge of Sanity, and Funko Fusion. On September 12th, we had Fabledom, which finally came to consoles but was available before, Garden Witchlife, Hollow Body, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics with an Xbox version coming sometime next year, Melobot: A Last Song, Self-Loss, Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown, Wild Bastards, and then on September 11th, we had Crossy Road Castle, which was available before but just made its way to more platforms. On September 10th, we had The Elder Scrolls Castles, Satisfactory, which has been available for years but has just left early access, Yars Rising, and then finally on September 9th, we had Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. Next up, two games are free on Epic Games, those being Rugrats Adventures in Gameland and Super Crazy Rhythm Castle. These will be free until September 19th at 11 AM EST, so you might as well redeem them because there's no better price than free. Next up, we got the September PS Plus Extra and Premium games for you guys. So, kicking things off with the Extra tier, we have The Plucky Squire, which is a day one release going into the service. Really cool to see that. Under the Waves, Night in the Woods, Chernobylite, Wildcard Football, Space Engineers, Road 96, Ben 10, and Far Cry 5. Then moving up to the premium tier, we have Pistol Whip for PSVR 2, Secret Agent Clank from the PSP, Sky Gunner from the PS2, and Mr. Mosquito, voice crack, Mr. Mosquito, also from the PS2, so a solid lineup overall. Next up, the Balatro mobile port was announced. This coming from Gamatsu, quote, publisher PlayStack and developer LocalFunk will release Balatro for iOS via App Store and Android via Google Play on September 26th for $9.99. The company's announced it will also be available via Apple Arcade, which for those that don't know, Apple Arcade is essentially like the Game Pass type service for iOS devices, whether that be like Mac, iPhones, iPads, etc. So, Balatro, honestly, this is perfect for mobile devices. If you're unfamiliar with the game, it's, without spoiling anything, it's like a cool little spin on poker. It's a really fun and addicting game. It's literally perfect for, you know, mobile devices, whether that be the, like Nintendo Switch or, you know, with it now going to iOS and Google Play. It'll be interesting to see how this goes over, considering there's a $9.99 price tag in order to get into it, but considering the fact that it's going into Apple Arcade, maybe that'll help boost the downloads a bit, but still, a perfect game, you know, considering the platform, like, this game is perfect for mobile devices. Next up, a native Minecraft PS5 version was announced. This is coming from Minecraft.net, where they talked about, you know, a bunch of exciting updates coming to the game, as well as this at the bottom, quote, right now we're also working on bringing a native version of Minecraft to the PlayStation 5, because Minecraft is better when friends can play together on whichever device they want. Over the coming year, we'll also be exploring ways to improve Minecraft's multiplayer experience and make it easier to find and connect with friends, end quote. Unfortunately, there is no official release date, nor is there any information on the upgrade path. Now, when they initially replaced the original Minecraft PS4 and Xbox One versions, you know, they were originally just called Minecraft Xbox One Edition or PlayStation 4 Edition, they replaced it with the new, what is called Minecraft Bedrock Edition, and it was a free upgrade path. Even if you had a disc version of the game, it would recognize your disc and then give you a free digital version of Minecraft Bedrock Edition. So hopefully they do something similar here, even if you have like a PS4 version of the game. Once we have more information when it comes to pricing, release dates, and such, obviously I will let you guys know. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of crazy considering the fact that Minecraft is the best-selling game of all time, yet here we are 4 years into the generation, and despite the fact that we saw all this cool ray tracing stuff and this, that, and the other at the launch of this current console generation, it took them 4 years to even get a native PS5 version of Minecraft out. Just interesting, again, considering it's the best-selling game of all time. I know the PS4 version's been backwards compatible, but still, you figure you'd want to get a native version out, right? But better late than never. Next up, the Xbox Tokyo Game Show 2024 event was announced. This is coming from news.xbox.com, quote, the Xbox Tokyo Game Show 2024 broadcast returns on Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. JST, 3 a.m. Pacific, 6 a.m. Eastern, or 11 a.m. UK. We warmly welcome players around the world to tune in as we share content from Xbox Game Studios, Activision Blizzard Entertainment, and Bethesda. We'll also showcase an exciting lineup of games from third-party partners primarily based in Japan and across Asia, including games coming to Game Pass. This year's broadcast will be available on Tokyo Game Show's official YouTube channel as well as on select Xbox social channels, end quote. So again, this will be happening in about 2 weeks' time, roughly on September 26th. So, and you know, as always, whenever they do these events, we always do complete recaps here on the channel. Doesn't matter if it's at Tokyo Game Show, Show, Gamescom, Game Award, whatever. Anytime there's any sort of substantial event happening in gaming, we recap the entire thing. So if you don't have time to watch it, don't worry, we'll get you up to speed in about like 2 to 3 minutes time on the following week after that event takes place. Next up, I just want to let you guys know that there is now cheaper ways to get the PlayStation 5, this being officially refurbished consoles on Sony's website. But you know, before you go, refurbished, are you serious? When it's officially refurbished, you know, if you ever purchased a refurbished system from Nintendo, whether that be like their DS system, Switches, or Wii's or Wii U's back in the day, then you know those are always very well done because it's coming from the official source. And similarly here with PlayStation, their refurbished systems tend to be pretty good for the most part. You'll obviously always have the outliers, you know, the refurbishing processes will never be perfect, but considering the fact that the PS5 is a new console, it's definitely worth checking out, especially when you consider that now, if you get this refurbished system from Sony, you could get it for as low as $349.99 or even just $399.99 when you get the disc version, which, you know, only like $400 or at the cheapest $350. That kind of makes the Series S look a little questionable, if I'm going to be honest. You can either get a digital-only Series S, which has, you know, like 512 gigabytes, or you could spend $50 more and get the much more powerful PS5, which is also only digital, and you could get a disc drive later down the line if you decided to, with double the storage and way better performance and all the other exclusives that come with Sony stuff. So again, I'm not trying to diss Xbox. I love Xbox. I love all the console manufacturers the same. I love Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. I wouldn't want to have a world where we don't have, you know, either one of those. Like, I love all of them. I need my Halo, I need my God of War, and I also need my Mario. You know what I mean? So I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying. It does make that Series S look a little questionable when you could just save up for a little longer and get something substantially more powerful. Next up, the Crew 2 and Crew Motorfest are thankfully getting offline modes. Now, unless you were living under a rock, then you would know about the whole fiasco that happened earlier this year with the crew getting shut down, and I was one of the players that was affected by this because I was still consistently playing the crew, not, you know, on a daily basis or even a weekly basis, but at least a couple times a month or every couple months I dive in, you know, play the game because I've been playing it consistently since it came out. I've just always been in love with that original crew. There's something about the vibes of the game and the gameplay and the cars I've always loved. So it really annoyed me when it went offline, and thankfully Ubisoft seems to actually be listening to their fans, and they're giving us an offline mode in a game that really should have had it from the beginning. But anyway, this coming from Video Games Chronicle, quote, as part of a Crew Motorfest showcase on Tuesday, developer Ivory Tower acknowledged consumer complaints over the handling of the crew, which was delisted last year and taken offline in April, making it unplayable. Quote, we want to acknowledge that some of you voiced concern about the access to the crew games. Today we want to express our commitment to the future of the Crew 2 and the Crew Motorfest. We are currently exploring different solutions and can confirm an offline mode to ensure long-term access to both titles. And that coming from Stephanie Bailey, the senior creative director of the franchise at Ivory Tower, end quote. So, thankfully, the Crew 2 and Crew Motorfest will be able to live on even after the servers inevitably get shut down in about, I don't know, maybe a decade, maybe less for the Crew 2, considering that that game's already been out for a little while now, but the Crew Motorfest has been newer. That one's probably at least got a decade plus under its belt, but still, I wish they could go back and retroactively do something for the Crew 1, but let's be honest, I don't think Ubisoft cares that much, right? Next up, the Sega Dreamcast has officially celebrated its 25th anniversary. This coming from Sega on X, quote, happy 25th birthday to the Sega Dreamcast. Our iconic console launched in 9999, revolutionizing gaming with innovative features and unforgettable classics from Sonic Adventures to Shenmue. Which Dreamcast games are you playing to celebrate? End quote. So I can tell you right now, I was going back and playing Resident Evil, Code Veronica X, and a bit of Shenmue and Sonic Adventure to celebrate, because as many great games as there are on the Sega Dreamcast, I feel like those three are some of the definitive ones right there. You also have a bunch of other ones as well, like Crazy Taxi and such. There's tons of iconic games on the Dreamcast. Such an underrated system to this day, but man, that's just crazy. The fact that the Dreamcast is 25 years old already. Man, I feel like a fossil. Next up, Astro Bot DLC has been confirmed. Now, before we get into this, no, it's not going to be like full-on crazy expansions or like a whole new game or standalone expansion, but it is substantial enough DLC, and it will be free. It's coming from Gamatsu, quote, publisher Sony Interactive Entertainment and developer Team Asobi will release free DLC for Astro Bot in 2024, so this year, which will add speedruns and new VIP bots. Game director Nicholas Doucette told Quest Daily in a video interview, quote, yeah, so we have free DLC and it's going to be free, Doucette said. It's going to come this year. It will be smaller. You know, it's not going to be like, you know, a huge amount, but it will be focusing on one of the features that people enjoyed in Astro's Playroom, and that was the speedruns. You know, there were some speedruns and the levels were quite short, but it was the fact that you could replay and keep shaving time off with some new VIP bots to rescue, so some characters we didn't include yet will appear. But yeah, that's going to come, and that's going to focus really on kind of challenging levels. But if we can, we'd also like to insert something a bit toy feeling, something that could be really like for any player. But we're not too sure about that one, but the challenging stuff is definitely coming. End quote. Asked if the speedrun downloadable content will include leaderboards, Dusek confirmed with a simple yes. So not only will we be getting this new DLC, but we'll also have leaderboards, which will, you know, add a bit of a fun competition to it among the entire player base. So yeah, if you haven't played Astro Bot yet, what are you doing? Go buy a copy. It's an absolutely phenomenal game. That aside, I am obviously super stoked for this. Just playing Astro Bot, it was more than worth the price of admission. I would have paid double just to get access to Astro Bot, right? I've been waiting for this game ever since I played Astro's Playroom for the first time. And yeah, the fact that this DLC is going to be free, I mean, that's just, you know, pro-consumer move right there, and yeah, I can't wait to see the insane speedruns all over YouTube once this comes out, because you already know, especially when it comes to, like, 3D platformers, people always find, you know, whether that be different glitches, or ways to abuse the movement, or tech in the game. It's gonna be crazy, and especially with those leaderboards, it's gonna be very exciting, and as soon as we know more, like, official release dates and details, obviously, I'll let you guys know as always. Next up, Xbox is bringing back friend requests for the first time since the Xbox 360. This coming from Xbox One X, quote, "We're reintroducing friend requests. You will be able to send, accept, or delete friend requests in addition to following or being followed by others. We are testing with Xbox insiders now and look forward to sharing more later this year on a full rollout. Also, your existing mutual friends will update automatically with this change once we roll it out. You'll stay friends with people who had also added you as a friend previously and continue following anyone who hadn't." End quote. So yeah, this is a very welcome feature, because before it was a little annoying how somebody could add you, and then if you wanted to add them back, you would have to like click on the notification immediately, and if you missed it by any chance, well then too bad, you kind of missed your chance to add them back. So it would always kind of lead to an awkward moment where you need to text somebody outside of the Xbox platform, like on Snapchat or Instagram, or just straight up call them, be like, hey, what's your username? Because I missed the notification. It was just always a whole thing. So the fact that they're bringing back friend requests, no idea why they ditched it in the first place, but I'm glad it's coming back. So yeah, once we have more details on that, once they officially roll it out, I'll let you guys know. And finally, the PS5 Pro was announced. And I have a couple of hot takes about this thing that differs from basically everything that everyone is saying on the internet right now, and I have some logical reasoning to kind of bring along with it. So we'll get into this, we'll talk about it first, and then we'll go from there. So anyway, this coming from PlayStation Blog, quote, "We developed PS5 Pro with deeply engaged players and game creators in mind. As many have asked for a console that runs even higher fidelity graphics with smoother frame rates at 60 FPS, we achieved this on PS5 Pro with several key performance features." They go on to talk about the upgraded GPU, which has 67% more compute units, 28% faster memory, 45% faster rendering for gameplay, advanced ray tracing, which basically just makes it so that not only is, you know, rendering out the ray tracing real time more efficient on the GPU, but they're also just able to do it while maintaining the frame rates. Then you don't really have to choose between going, okay, 60 FPS no ray tracing or 30 FPS with ray tracing. It'll be closer to that 60 mark, if not on the dot, with the advanced ray tracing tech. And then finally, AI-driven upscaling. We're also introducing PSSR, aka PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, an AI-driven upscaling that uses a machine learning-based technology to provide super sharp image clarity by adding an extraordinary amount of detail. Other enhancements include PS5 Pro Game Boost, which basically just goes back and retroactively boosts not only PS5 games, but also the 8,000 plus PS4 games that are available, whether that be higher resolutions, performance, etc. The PS5 is also going to be launching with the latest Wi-Fi technology, that being Wi-Fi 7, in territories where supporting that as standard, so, you know, like the North Americas and such. VRR and 8K gaming will also be supported, and this isn't just like a thing that they're slapping on the box. Like, there was actually people talking about the fact that you can play Gran Turismo 7 in 8K. So when you consider that, that's another thing I'll be mentioning later, as to the fact that the price tag for this really isn't that bad when you take into account everything that's coming with it. Also, if you're unsure as to what games are actually, you know, being affected by like certain like game boostings or enhancements by the PS5, similar to, you know, like on an Xbox One case, how it would say like Xbox One X enhanced or PS4 Pro enhanced on PS4 cases, it'll say, hey, this game is PS5 Pro enhanced. And some of the games that'll have these enhancements right off the rip as soon as the Pro launches will be Alan Wake 2, AC Shadows, Demon's Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, FF7 Rebirth, Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, The Crew Motorfest, The First Descendant, and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and more. It's also worth mentioning that your current disk drive that you're using on your PS5 will be compatible with this PS5 Pro. That'll be important later. And you'll be able to use, at least according to the way they're wording this, you'll be able to swap out the console covers you have now, and I guess even the ones that they're producing with the Pro, so that's really nice. It'll also be compatible with all the, PS5 accessories, whether we're talking PSVR 2, PS Portal, DualSense Edge, Access Controller, Pulse Elite, Pulse Explorer, and the user interface and network services will also remain the same as PS5. Now we get into the release date and pricing. So it will launch on November 7th, with pre-orders going live September 26th. And it's going to cost $699.99 USD, $699.99 GBP, €799.99 Euro, or 119,980 Japan yen. It will also come with a 2TB SSD, a DualSense wireless controller, and of course Astro's Playroom pre-installed in on the system, just like any other PS5. Similar to the original PS5, the stand, the vertical stand will be sold separately, but you don't really need that for the PS5. My PS5 Slim that I have, I don't have a stand for it, and it's fine. I just have it standing vertically. You really don't need it. With the way that the weight's distributed, it's just fine. And then as far as the disk drive is concerned, it will not come with a disk drive, nor will it have a disk drive model. But again, the disk drive you have currently will work with that. So you just pull it off your current PS5, or you buy one separately, and then you stick it on, and that's that. Now, here's my biggest thing. I know it's quite a hot take to be like, hey, this thing isn't overpriced, or at least I personally don't think so. Because it's really hard to say if this thing actually is overpriced, because the whole internet has been losing their minds, being the mindless echo chamber with no logical thinking or reasoning, as it always is, to where they hear their favorite YouTuber say something, therefore they echo it, or they see a price tag and then they respond just based off of the price tag. But there's a couple things to consider that we're going to go through here, so before you leave a dislike, at least hear me out before you go and you're mad, rampage in the comments or hitting the dislike button. Okay, first things first, let's take a look at the Xbox Series X. There's a version of the Xbox Series X that costs $599.99. That is the 2TB Xbox Series X model. And, for $600, again, you are getting that Series X, you are getting the disk drive. But again, it's an extra $100 for just one extra terabyte of storage. And yet, nobody had pitchforks raised over that. And then when we compare this to, now, you could compare this to the disk drive version of the PS5 and be like, okay, it's only $200 more than that. But since this doesn't come with a disk drive, I feel like it would only be fair to compare it to the diskless version, which would normally be $450. So even then, it's only $250 more, which, I mean, that's still a substantial amount of money. But then when you consider the fact that it's double the storage, if we're going off of Xbox's standards, we could say that makes it an extra, $100 right there. So then what, for a 2TB diskless model, we're looking at $550 on a normal PS5 if it would launch with 2 terabytes. So even then, you're only paying, what, an extra $150 for the extra performance inside of the console? And furthermore, it's hard to say whether or not this is an overpriced machine, because we do not know the specs. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, we have not seen official teardowns of this thing. We don't know how much that GPU is worth. We don't know how much power it's pushing out. And when you compare that price tag to, say, building your own PC, you're not going to get 8K gaming, let alone 4K gaming, for $700. I mean, you might be able to push out 4K gaming at, $700, but it may not be the ideal experience, especially with the price of current GPUs and PC parts in general. The prices haven't fully readjusted since, the world basically ended a couple of years ago. Sure, they're better than they were, but they haven't fully come back down. Am I mindlessly defending Sony here? No, $700 is a lot of money for a console. But at the same time, I feel like we should be careful with how high we're raising these pitchforks when we don't even know the specs, because, while sure, if the parts inside of the machine were only worth $50 more, but they're charging you an extra $250, I mean, again, you have the storage to account for, so even then, if you want to say maybe the storage would only add on, realistically speaking, maybe another $50, $60, $70, something like that. Even still, that is a substantial amount of money there. But when it comes to that GPU, how much does it cost to manufacture this thing? How much is that GPU actually worth? Because again, if it's only worth like an extra $50, then yeah, it's a scam. Well, I can't say it's a scam because you're the one paying the money. You can't call something a scam if you're paying for it. A scam, by definition, is only when you pay for something and you don't get what you paid for. But if you're paying for it, that shows that you're willing to pay for it, and therefore, in a way, you're only scamming yourself and nobody else really did anything wrong because you forked out the money. But again, at the same time, it's like, it really just comes down to what those parts actually are. Am I defending the high price tag? No, because that is a lot of money for a console, once again. But at the same time, comparatively speaking, it can do 8K gaming. you wouldn't even get that out of a PC at the $700 price range unless you get a steal on some of those parts. And furthermore, we don't know the parts inside of this machine. When we know the parts inside of this machine and we have third-party sources doing teardowns, Sony can do all the teardowns they want. But once we see teardowns from like, you know, like Digital Foundry and all these other places that, you know, specialize in this sort of thing, then we can make the call and be like, okay, is this thing a ripoff? Is it not? How much, you know, is this upgrade actually worth the extra amount of money that they're charging for this thing? But until then, I feel like the internet should just calm down a little bit, but who am I kidding? This is the internet. It's a mindless echo chamber. They know nothing about facts or statistics or anything like this. They just see high price tags and get mad. They don't use any logical reasoning, so it takes people like me to come out here and use some logical reasoning to try to talk about this. And I'll probably be murdered online for it anyway, but, you know, it's not like I care, because I upload these videos and then I just turn my phone on Do Not Disturb for a week until it's time to record the next episode, and then it's just kind of like a cycle there, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that is all the stories that I got for you guys this week, so now I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on everything that we talked about, whether it's the PS5 Pro, that's like the only thing on my mind after that long tangent at the end, or the fact that the Sega Dreamcast is officially 25 years old. Where were you 25 years ago? Were you playing on the Dreamcast, or were you waiting for the PS2? Were you still playing on your PS1? Were you on the N64? Were you not even alive? Whatever it is, whatever thing, and I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. But anyway, this is Weekly GCap. New episodes go live every single Friday at 9 AM Eastern, so if you want to catch them as soon as they go live, well then, now you know to be here. But anyway, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.